All right, welcome in to the Bobby Carpenter Show. Excited for today. It is a Thursday, Schlegs. You're excited. No Buddy the Elf. He has left the building, I guess. He is no longer
He's
here
going to
with
be
you.
flying to Texas, man. He's going to be flying to Texas for Christmas,
When are you leaving to go to Texas?
Friday,
Perfect. Buckeyes.
on the
What time,
plane
what time are you leaving? That's tomorrow?
after our show. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just trying to make sure that you're not going to tell me today that, hey, I realized, sorry, I knew that.
Surprise!
It wasn't like they changed your flight. It was always that time and you just
Yeah.
forgot to say something.
No, nope. I thought of you, Bob. I thought of you. I thought of everybody out there that likes and subscribes to the Bobby Carpenter Show.
That's good, man. I'm just I'm happy to be here for you, Schlegs. And we've got a lot of news coming down. There's a lot of transfer portal stuff. I mean, I know that you're a big portal king. We love to see that. I mean, I get it. I understand it for some of the guys. It just stinks to be um, you know, it happening right now. The calendar has screwed everything up in the way that it has to operate. So that's no good. Juiced up about this team, feeling pretty good. I mean, Ryan's continued to talk. He's been available every day. And so, in this era now where coaches, how available are they? How much do they talk to the media? I mean, Ryan has been available every day. He's talked about a million things at nauseum. And it's been pretty impressive with kind of how he's handled everything. And pressure. I've been on a number of shows. Like Get Up last week. I was on Greeny's show earlier today on ESPN Radio talking about it. And everybody wants to know, how you're handling the pressure. What does Buckeye Nation think of this? All these things. And so I think that there's a point now where this team feels excited. They have purpose of mission. They understand what they need to do. And it's just going to be a function of going out and executing on Saturday night.
I think you're going to pull up Reese's tweet later, but
Yeah, we can pull it up right now. We got plenty of juice. Let's pull up Maurice's tweet right now, Pat.
Pull it up right now.
Dig it in there, Schleich. Kind of top line what it is for us.
Well, really when it goes through, like you go to practice, Bob, and I think it was the week of the Penn State. You and I were both up there together, right? And we literally just watched the inside drill. Like you and I both automatically had a feeling like, oh, this is going to be a good one, right? And so when you get perspective from guys that just happen to be at practice, and you're just not watching. It's kind of I try to articulate to my wife or people, why I even like watching football, the Buckeyes at home during the games. One, I'm taking notes. Two, I'm trying to see a bigger picture. But when we're at practice and you can hear the communication, right, from the back end and the linebackers, the back, those back guys communicating to each other, and you can see, what they're doing in their individual period and the intensity of which they're doing it. You're like, man, like these dudes are ready to go. They turn the page. I feel really like when Reese comes down and says, I feel really confident about our guys in there, just like you and I had the same thing, going into Penn State, like it carries weight. So again, I think our dudes are locked in, spoken with a few of them, just like in passing, but then also guys that I've heard that have talked to other guys that are on the teams. Like, do they understand exactly what they want to do? When you have a veteran-led team like this going into a 12-team playoff, it's about the ones that can execute at the end of the day. And that's the one thing that Ryan has been talking about this entire time. No excuses for the failure in the Michigan game, right? But now it's on to the college football playoff. You have to turn the page. And the one thing they have to do is the coaches have to put their players in advantageous situations to make plays, and then players have to execute. And that's it.
Yeah. Maurice, time to go to war this weekend. Losers think and talk about what happens yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have a tall order in front of us. Attention and darts need to be focused on Tennessee. Can't live life in the rear view. And that's
no doubt. That's so true, man.
And so it's amazing. You go look and talking to Reese about this. I talked to him at practice a lot. We're talking about some of the things that happened and just all the stuff, the nostalgia that comes up and the different situations and everything that went on in Ohio State over the last 20, 25 years. And we have these in-depth conversations. And it's amazing. At first, when you first got there, it was like how your perspective changes when you've seen the work, you see the guys, you know what they're doing, you know how much they care, with what his perspective was before. And now that he has been, in there coming to practice weekly, seeing that and understanding. And it's something that it's tough for a lot of people to understand, Schlegs. And I know you went off earlier this week about it, because so often in life, like we want to wallow in things, and like you want to talk about all the bad things that have happened. Well, it's only productive if you're learning from it and you're figuring it out. And so listening to Ryan this week, listening to Chip Kelly, listening to Jim Knowles, you hear the players talk. It sounds like they've taken from the Michigan game what they needed to. Then you got to bury the damn thing. And it's painful. It hurts. It sucks. But you can't go back and replay it. And so it's onward and upward. And as bad as it was, like, and I'm not dismissing that. And people were saying, Ross is, pushing attention off of it. No, it's a new paradigm. You win the game, you lose the game. That's a big deal. It's a huge deal. It's a BFD, Schlegs. But regardless of what that outcome is, Ohio State is most likely going to be playing games of consequence after that. And so just to sit there and like, oh, it's the worst year ever. It used to be when Earl Bruce would come in and talk to you, he's like, if you lose that game, it's the worst year. Yeah, there is terrible parts of the year. And like, you cannot win that. And you've lost it for 364 days. And so you can get another crack at it. So you always are kind of thinking about it. But that was when, if you lost that game, Schlegs, it meant that you weren't going to be able to really have anything else in front of you. And so that's what we're battling right now. And that'll be the tough part for the players and the coaches. And fans are having a hard time within Buckeye Nation at large because they can't do anything about it. When you're a player and you're a coach, like, you have purpose of mission, and you can go, hey, we're watching Tennessee, we're figuring out what we're practicing for. And that's where I think that disconnect comes, is you don't want the players to sit there and wallow in it. Like, that's the worst thing that they can do. You want them to get focused up and take what they needed to and then move forward and move ahead. Don't live life looking in the rear view.
The human nature, Bob, is, I think sometimes people find solace in the
commiseration.
Exactly, because it becomes part of their identity, the oh, woe is me mentality, and you stay there and you wallow in it, and that's what you're known for because you're trying to get sympathy and other things from other people, as opposed to what Maurice said, you can't live life looking in the rearview mirror. You need to press forward. And you could even look at this as, a guy that just kind of top of mind of somebody that did that really, really well, in my opinion, would be a Cardale Jones. You got a number 3 guy, right? He's backing up JT. Then he comes in. We go on this great run. We win a national championship. He could have left, probably got a higher draft pick, decided to stay. NFL career didn't necessarily work out the way that he wanted. But then you go look at what all those things have done for Cardale. And what he's currently doing in his life and the impact that he's making on the community in Central Ohio, like, that man's successful. But he's not wallowing in the past and opportunities that pass by. It's the here and now. And, it's always like, and then there's 2 things to that. People either live in the past or they live for tomorrow, as opposed to living exactly where they're supposed to be right now. And according to the word, the mercies happen in the morning. The mercies come in the morning. Worry about today. Those mercies aren't coming. They're not guaranteed tomorrow, right? They'll be there in the morning, but you got to focus on today. And that's, and to your point, Bob, you made a great point. The difference between a fan and a player and a coach is that on a day-to-day basis, they're into the routine and their grind, and they're doing something about it on a daily basis, where fans and media cannot, and they just talk about it, and then they like to commiserate together, I guess.
Well, and that's what we are. Like, there's nothing that I can functionally do to help win this game. Talking about it with you, that's not really achieving anything.
Well, we just bring positive juice to it, Bob.
That's what I'm trying to do, Schlegs. Buddy the Elf, bring the positivity.
Spring it. Beat Tennessee's ass. Cheer for all to hear.
Absolutely. I love it. It's the more I think about it, I've watched this, I watched some Tennessee. They're good, but this team, this Ohio State team, I've always been supremely confident in, because I know what their peak, like what their apex looks like. And can you get there? Can the players and coaches come together, have a purpose, like have a commonality of vision to understand what it's going to take to ultimately win this game? Because the roster is tremendous. The players are really good. And when they play together, the whole is even greater than the sum of the parts. And we've watched that, and you've seen those clips of it, and you've seen those glimpses. And now it's time to start putting it together on a consistent basis. And they've had it for halves. They've had it for games, had it intermittently here, and you've seen it on drives, one side of the ball, the other side of the ball. But having to mesh that together is what's ultimately going to happen now. And it's not to say there's not going to be setbacks, but I always feel good about this team because I know what their ceiling can be. And when you have a ceiling, that it's is high or higher than anyone else's, why would you ever be worried going into a game? Like, just know that, hey, we're prepared, go there and like, let's get the ladder out and let's go reach that apex and try to get it done. So that's exciting for me.
Yeah.
Before we get going in this legs, like it's Thursday now before the game. It's the last day of practice.
Yep.
You're flying out tomorrow. Have you gotten, I asked AJ this yesterday, but I didn't talk to Buddy the Elf about it because I didn't know if Buddy the Elf, like if he's the one that got the presents, if he made the presents, what that all happened. Where are we at? Do you have all your Christmas shopping done?
I mean, first off, we've already done family Christmas, Bob. And that's what happens when you live in 2 states and celebrate Christmas probably in 3, even though I'm in 2, because family's living in Florida. We always celebrate Christmas in Texas. I'm in Columbus, Ohio right now. I fly to Texas. My family flies to Texas. We meet up and we celebrate Christmas with her family and then my dad, of which I'm going to take my dad to Highland Park State Championship game to spend some time with him. But my presents have already been done for a long period of time because we had to celebrate Christmas 2 weeks early.
That guy right there, Rigger Raj.
Yeah. Was that what was in that letter?
No, I don't know what you're talking about, Schleiks. Listen,
okay.
I
I
procured this through means. By the way, you look a hell of a lot like Sam in that picture too.
I know.
Wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, it was.
Your dad looks the same too, by the way.
He does. He looks the exact same. We age we age well. We age better. Christmas is one of those things where it's like, as a parent, kids come to you and they're like, hey, I want this, this, and this. And I'm like, no, I'm not moving that. Because we're probably moving back in June. It's like, oh, I'm not moving that, or man, this is really going to take up a lot of space, or that's way out of budget, or whatever. And then your kids are all different. Like I go shopping for Faith, and it's like I know what she likes, because I'll take her shopping.
Yeah,
I'm like,
get some protein, get some weights.
Well, we went in like sports bra. Like there's a couple of stores that she likes to go into. I'm like, hey, Stephanie, Faith would wear that. Now this is where I get in trouble, right? Like Faith will wear that sports bra when she trained, like when we're training and stuff. And then I'm looking at the girl. Now I'm trying to assess size. And like there's this little girl in there.
You're a creep. This is the best.
No. Well, I know my daughter's size, right? My wife knows cup size. I'm like, what? I don't know that, right? So I'm just looking at her. And I'm just like, man, what are you? Are you an extra small? I'm like, oh, she's got to be a small then because she has a significantly bigger back spread than you do, if that matters. But I guess they like to wear them super tight. So I was off on that. And when I articulated why I went with a small, I think I went with a medium instead of the small, she was offended. Just like I was like, man, yeah. She was, because I was like, why'd you get a medium? I was like, because your back is bigger, And again, articulating to women that their thighs are big is a negative. I'm like, those are great thighs. I wish I had thighs like that, especially calves. I wish my calves looked like yours, Can't say those kind of things. And so I learned now I'm just going to always go smaller. And then I'm just going to err on the side of small.
Yeah, going small. That's a pro tip for any dude out there shopping for probably not their daughter as much, but usually a girlfriend, a wife, maybe. Always going smaller is better because in their mind, like, you thought I was this big. No, like, and if it's bigger, it's awful. It's like, oh, it's a little snug. Okay, I'm sorry. It's I thought that's what you were. I mean, you look so great all the time. So
kids are so cool that they're so different. Cause like Hunter, he didn't give us anything that he wanted. He just kind of wants to go to fights and maybe some money so he can bet online or go to Best Bets. But we bought him like Crocs because he's going to Findlay. We bought him Crocs with the fuzzy lining. He was he was so fired up about that. And then my wife, I went up to Worthington Jewelers with my guy, Bob Capacci. She doesn't wear a lot of jewelry, but she's always
you told me that you gave her a pearl necklace last week.
Those are, I mean, why wouldn't you? I did not say that to you, Bob, at all.
I think you did.
I got her, no, I did not, but I got her a ring. It's like a 3-ring thing woven together for the kids, type deal.
Yeah.
So anyways, shopping is over. Buddy the Elf has done his due diligence. He's good for another year.
Does she know? Oh, I guess you already gave it to her. Okay. So that's.
No, I didn't give that to her. She don't know.
You sure she's not watching the show right now?
No, she ain't watching. She better not be. She's working. I'm like,
Exactly.
girl, exactly, because that's when it goes into, well, why aren't you working? Like, I thought you had a job. Well, my job is remote. Well, what does that even mean? You know?
Hey, man.
No, she better be working.
That's good. All right. Well, listen, great stuff right there. We got a ton more Buckeye stuff coming up. Please, if you're watching, like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube. If you're watching on FanDuel TV, that's great. Also on X, get out there, check it out. It's phenomenal. And throw your comments in. We got a great comment from a week ago yesterday that we're going to break down probably tomorrow because it's like 5-6 really good questions. It'll be the whole tailgate talk. We'll get some more of your questions today. And we've got Ben Stevens coming up for you today in the final segment. So he will blow Schleg's mind as he always does. But before we get out of here, I want to tell you, parents and athletes, makes a great Christmas gift. Protect what matters most with X-Sport mouth guards trusted by professional athletes and designed by NHL team dentists. X-Sport mouth guards are scientifically tested to absorb those high-impact hits, protecting both your teeth and your brain. X4 mouth guards feature 3 layers of advanced protection, including patented use of carbon fiber, custom fit to your unique smile with 3D printed technology for that snug fit, meaning more protection, better performance, max comfort, clear communication so you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Visit exportguards.com/Bobby today to save 15%. Export, protect what matters most. More of the Bobby Carpenter Show coming up next.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like... I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer. All right, welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show, and excited here. So, a little portal combat going on. Ohio State looking for some offensive linemen in the portal. Missed out on some. You got some others out there still. Looking like they'll probably take 2 or 3 offensive tackles. You know, the interior of the offensive line, they got a lot coming back next year. Losing Fryer, and then also, obviously, Josh Simmons already declaring for the NFL draft. You know, Donovan Jackson will be gone, who's filling in a tackle right now, but trying to get a little more depth and maybe have some guys play immediately while they develop some of the younger guys that they've been recruiting. It takes a while. It takes years to develop offensive linemen. But there was some good news, as we can throw this up, Pat, about Ohio State landing Phillip Daniels from the University of Minnesota. And this is what you like to see. There's a Buckeye connection there. He's a redshirt freshman. Ended up starting the last, I think, 4 or 6 games for Minnesota. But like I said, he's a redshirt freshman. He's not Schleg's a guy that's been there forever. He's not like coming in for one and done. He'll have a couple years at Ohio State that he can still play. He's the cousin of former Buckeye Paris Johnson Jr. I believe he's from Cincinnati Princeton. I know he's a Cincinnati guy. So you're getting an Ohio guy who you liked coming out. Maybe wasn't quite developed enough early on, goes to Minnesota for 2 years. You see him play now, and he's a guy that can come in and compete right away. And then you'll also have some years with him to move forward as well.
Yeah, I like it. Plus, they got the Armstrong twins. One's a guard, one's a tackle. They have some younger guys too, but as we've seen, you have to have depth. And just so everybody knows out there, when you're going and you're trying to accumulate depth at positions, guess what? You're going to have some attrition through the portal because guys want opportunities. But the fact that he is a younger guy that can develop and played some at the University of Minnesota and also understands the Big Ten, that's really promising. Plus, they have another guy that they're looking at from, I believe it's Connecticut State, right? So he's played a lot of ball, right? He's played a lot of ball, and he's one of the best in FCS. But again, that's the developmental guy. But you have to go get some of those guys like that. And I think that with the way that Coach Fry has been able to handle this season and reshuffling all the offensive line and being up for the Jim Moore War as the semifinalist with all the different things that transpired, especially losing Josh Simmons early, I think he's done a really, really good job.
Done a great job. And so you mentioned this, Schlegs, the Central Connecticut State transfer, Rotrell Perry. So we can throw that up here, and we'll talk about him a little bit. So now he is a guy who's only allowed just 4 sacks in 3 seasons now. I believe he's a 1AA player, Schlegs, but he's a veteran guy. He's a guy you think you could bring in, like you tune him up during the winter and the spring, get him ready to go for the summer, get adjusted, obviously going against very good defensive linemen at Ohio State in the spring and camp. And then you'd have him ready to go potentially as more of a 1-year guy as well. I think they said maybe he would be playing left tackle, but they've got to get that figured out. But just acquiring talent. And so this is kind of the other end of that spectrum. You're bringing in more of a veteran guy to come in there and be able to play.
Yep, and that's – listen, when they've already been – he's had success, only giving up, 4 sacks in 3 seasons, regardless of the level, pretty good. And so what are his weaknesses coming in? I don't know that because I never watched film on the guy. But those are the things.
You don't watch a lot of Central Connecticut State, Schlegs?
No, I really haven't.
The old
CCS, I have not. But what I'll say is this. He'll have an entire offseason in the winter, which is the best, to then, like you said, go through spring football, go against the talent that we have at Ohio State, and really see where he is. And the good thing about that, too, is a guy that's played a lot of ball versus a guy that is younger that hasn't, where's the ceiling? What is the fit? Where is the role? Does he know how to handle himself as a pro? When you go and look at a veteran type guy, those are cultural type guys that you want to bring in that would help teach other people how to be you don't want to have to teach him how to be a pro. He should already be one because he's been playing ball for a long time. So he's one of those guys that you can plug in.
So explain the folks. You worked obviously in the weight room, and the physical development of offensive line is a big deal. So you're bringing in a guy you want to try to get ready. What does that development look like? What are areas of need that they typically need to get developed to be able to come in either from high school or maybe a smaller school to be able to kind of move the way they need to, anchor the way they need to? Like, what does that process look like to develop the physical body of a right or left tackle?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different things that people look at from like a lower body and upper body strength metric. Like, where is he? Right? That's one, because you got to be significantly stronger. You got to be a dude mover. You're going to train that way. But then, like, can he bend? And, why? If he can't bend, then why? Right? So you're going to go and you're going to assess them top down. You're going to say, okay, here are your weak link programs, because, weak things break. That's a Louis Simmons West Side Barbell mentality, but it's absolutely true. So you're just going to identify those. And again, regardless of where you are as far as age, you have developmental, you have, gen pop, and you have advanced. So predicated upon where he falls in the metrics that he's in, that's the program that he's going to be on. And that doesn't mean he's on the same program, upper or lower body. It might be like, man, we really need to develop more of his lower body. He's on that developmental, gen pop one, as opposed to an advanced guy, or his upper body is really, really strong. He might be an advanced guy. But then you look at, how is his ankle mobility? What's his knee health, knee mobility look like? What are his hips, especially being able to bend and play in space? What do those look like? Boom. One, you do them for everybody. The two, if it's a weakness, and those are things that you do additional.
Absolutely. The bending is one thing, like the lower body strength and the bending, Schlegs. I think those are some of the things that people probably don't realize, like the importance of, and how big of a deal that can ultimately be when you start talking about what it takes to be able to play offensive line, that bending and that ankle and knee and hip flexibility and mobility. So they test that. And then obviously, is there something genetic? Like, what can we do with this? We try to figure that out. All right. So we got some other news here that we're going to come up. We'll get that caught up with you today coming up next, Schlegs, in our headlines. All right, welcome back in the Bobby Carpenter Show. And Schleggs, we got Tailgate Talk, and then our guy, Ben Stevens, going to be joining us here in about the next 7 or 8 minutes. Does such a great job giving us the games, the knowledge, the insight, the ability to maybe make a little cash. Maybe Hunter should listen to
He does.
Ben.
He does. He listens to Ben.
Some stacks on it. But we do have a little bit of negative news with the transfer. We've talked about, Jaden Ballard transferring, Gabe Powers getting in the portal, like a handful of guys. Devin Brown announced that he was going to be getting in the portal. However, he's going to be staying with the team as he's still their backup quarterback. But Schleggs, a little bit of negative juice here. And this is what you have, and this is what you're going to see, from time. We have the safety room. You have Caleb Downs, who's going to be returning. Obviously, our guy Lathan Ransom is going to be leaving. You have Lorenzo Styles, who's going to be coming back, who plays a little bit of that hybrid right there on the outside. Jordan Hancock's going to be leaving. And then you got some of the younger guys. You got Malik Hartford, who has looked pretty good at times, played some as a freshman. McLean played pretty well and did a good job. And so because of that, you start looking around and tough news, Jaden Bonsu entered the transfer portal. The 6'2", 205-pound safety who have 3 years remaining to be able to play. And you hate to lose a guy like that. He was a 4-star recruit, pretty highly recruited guy, good dude. But you're probably looking at your path. You got some other young guys that are probably playing more than you. And then you have an All-American, unanimous All-American who's going to be entrenched in one of those positions.
That's exactly what transpired, Bob. So you have some 2 younger guys, and it's just, we saw Jalen even come into some of those games over Bonsu, and that was kind of probably for him.
Played well.
And exactly, and played well. And when guys, again, you have to seize your opportunity, competitive excellence, and that just doesn't happen in the game. It happens in what do you do at practice. Are you reliable? And all those things go into it. And then when I have a younger guy that goes in, maybe we're splitting time, and he just outplays me in that one opportunity. I got to be ready for that opportunity. And so he probably sees the fact that they got younger guys on, and I could potentially go somewhere else. And guess what? I'll tell you this, though, man, he's been getting developed. Don't necessarily know if he's 6'2", but I think he'll be able to find a home here very, very quickly.
Absolutely. I think he'll be good and be able to figure it out and find something. All right, that's all we got for our headlines today. We got Tailgate Talk, Schleggs. We got some other stuff. We want time tomorrow. We've got a big show planned for you on Friday as well. But we want to make sure we get to Ben Stevens on time. We got Tailgate Talk. Answer your questions coming up next, brought to you by Real Truck.
Building a home for the people who are worth it. Stepping out, throwing in a line, and dropping the tailgate for a picnic. And finding far-off campsites with the people you're closest to. Upgrade your truck, Jeep, or Bronco with over 1 million parts and accessories. And bring your truck to life. Real Truck.
All right, now it's our favorite segment, Real Tailgate Talk, brought to you by our friends at Real Truck. Hey, it's the holiday season. There's still time. There's still time. It's always a great time to get your truck to look great, or your Jeep, or your Bronco, whatever it is. Go to realtruck.com. They've got all the accessories for the interior, the exterior, whether it's truck covers, caps, floor liners, running boards. They've got brush guards. They've got bumpers. They've got tops for your Jeep. They got it all to make your truck, Jeep, Bronco look sick, bring it to life. And the best part of all right now for listeners and viewers of the Bobby Carpenter Show, you go there, you spend $100, which is easy to do. You'll probably spend way more than that because of all the sweet stuff. And you're going to be able to get that. And poof, David Copperfield, you get the free Real Truck hat. So that's a win for everybody. So head to realtruck.com. All right, we got some comments out of the chat. or the comment section yesterday, and it's pretty interesting as we're in the middle of the transfer portal, Schlegs. One of the ones that came through from Joe Brown _forever. It's pretty interesting here. It says the amount of chaos in the transfer portal is undeniable in college football. However, which carries more value going forward in this era? A high school recruit or a proven player with a few years of eligibility? I'm torn.
Depends. Depends on the high school kid and his ability. Like Devin Sanchez, like, dude, you know?
Yeah, Devin Sanchez is a dude that could come in and you think play right away.
Right. And that's the thing, right? Like Jeremiah Smith, like, dude, right? Even a Cardinal Tate when he came in as a freshman. But like, here's the thing. When you're going, they're actually completely different because you have to think in terms of roster. Where do you lack the depth? You might have to go get more high school kids. And again, that might be the makeup. Because how many kids do we get at that particular position? How many kids do we already have the roster that are potentially young? Who are we losing from that roster? And then we have to create that balance of veteran and young. Because there's live bullets that somebody has gotten, but there's also a reason why they started where they started. So you can't negate the fact, but then if they exceeded expectations and now they have an opportunity of potentially coming to Ohio State, AKA me, I started at the Air Force Academy, then what does that look like? How does that fit within the room? Hey, we're going to bring Anthony Schlegel in to help mentor a young Bobby and AJ because of all the ball that he's played. Next thing you know, poof, David Copperfield, I'm sitting in a meeting with Mark D'Antonio and Jim Tressel. But I regress. That's how you have to manage this. So it's not just we're going to go all freshman development. It's not going to be we're just going to be heavily on the portal and guys that have played. There has to be a mix because if you look at this team this year, most of the money that was spent was on roster of current guys that were on the roster from start to finish. They filled the different voids that they had on that roster through the portal, and I might add, great portal additions that match the culture. And that's really the sweet spot, guys.
You love that sweet spot, Schlegs, and it's tough. And certain positions are going to be, I guess, like offensive line because it takes more time, like you said, Schlegs, to develop those guys. So sometimes bringing in a veteran piece is easier there. Like receivers, Heartline has proven you can get those guys up and running in a year, maybe by their second year for sure, with what you're able to do. So a lot of stuff there.
Bob, and it also goes into your money that you're allocating for certain things now, right? Because if I have a young freshman that's coming in, let's say an offensive lineman that's unproven, I don't know what he is, versus a guy that has already proven and I know where he can be with a little bit of tweaks here and there, I would rather spend, the $750,000 on that versus $1 million on the top prospect that I still don't know what I'm going to get, right? It's all kind of different.
Well, they're probably not going to play right away either. So for offensive linemen, you're paying for production, which the problem with the portal is the next year, Schlegs, they may not like it. You sunk however many dollars, and that guy, hey, I'm not happy here. I can go leave. And so that's the balance of how you're trying to figure that out. An offensive line is very curious when you're talking about that because it's tough because there's that development piece. A guy who needs no development, though, Ben Stevens, going to make you a smarter and maybe wealthier fan if you follow his advice. He's coming up next on the Bobby Carpenter Show.
Get the most out of work, life, and all your outdoor adventures with top-selling upgrades for your truck. Guaranteed fit, free shipping, easy install, expert support, and thousands of dealers just a click away. Bring your truck to life. Real Truck. Upgrade today and save between $50 and $400 on select Real Truck products. Visit realtruck.com/specials.
All right, we got our guy, Ben Stevens, who's one of the best. He's on Sports Grid Radio. You can give him a follow on X at Ben Scott Stevens. He's got all kinds of nuggets out there for you and does such a great job. Unfortunately, our schedule conflicted last week. We weren't able to get him on, and that was up to us. He loves coming on here. He's one of our favorites. Hopefully, we're one of his. Ben, how are we doing here?
Bobby, I'm doing very, very well. No bad blood, no ill will. I understand it's busy. It's the holiday season. I've got my schedule. You guys have yours. But we're here for when it matters most, right? Not that Army Navy was not a wonderful, wonderful game. I probably would have given out a losing bet. So best for the people here that I was not here to share Bryson Daly multiple rushing scores once again. But here we are getting ready for the college football playoff in history to be made this week and on Friday night. The first games ever in the history of the 12-team era of the CFP. Our first ever playoff games played on a college campus in the history of this sport, in the largest field that still has a chance once reaching the postseason to win a national championship in the history of this sport, needing the most wins necessary to win a national title in the history of this sport. History is the theme, gentlemen. I'm very glad to be here.
Ben, you're the absolute best. All right, can you just share with people about, how you're just stacking cash vertical and counting sideways there on all these betting that you're dishing out to people? Because my son listens to you when he's making bets. And I'm like, listen, if there's one thing I would do if I was to get into betting, I would listen to Ben Scott Stevens. So he does on the show. Tell everybody, how have you been doing? How have you been doing this year betting-wise?
Listen, I hope that I am helping the Schlegs family bottom line. I'm hoping, Schlegs, that I make it so that you get a better Christmas gift coming up with some of the winning wagers. I will say this. I've been meaning to for the last 3-4 weeks, really as we near the end of the regular season, to go back into every episode that we have had on Sports Grid of our college football pregame show Saturday mornings on College Football Today, where we give out generally anywhere from 5 to 7 picks and tally everything up week by week by week. Because one of the reasons I want to do that is I feel as though I've had a pretty good college football season. Not many overwhelmingly losing days. And even if some days have been around 500, more winning days than not. So my promise to you, Schlegs, and to everybody, also for my own knowledge, is at the end of the season, maybe with a couple of days off around the holiday before we get to the semifinal round of the college football playoff, I will tally everything up and you will have the overall win-loss record that I hope has at least been profitable.
Oh, I'm sure, Ben. With you, we're always eating at the buffet and never out back getting kneecapped, which is big. It's always nice to be a part of. But you mentioned the first ever CFP, the 12 team. This will be the first. We'll go in order. We'll crescendo with Ohio State. Friday night, Indiana, the battle for the Hoosier State going to South Bend. I found this out, Ben. First ever home game for Notre Dame on a Friday. It'll be the first home game played in Notre Dame Stadium on a Friday. How do you like this? Indiana dog coming in. These tickets are through the roof. They're the ones that are really holding their value the most. I believe Notre Dame's -7. How do we feel about that touchdown number?
Yeah, Bobby. So when this line came out, Selection Sunday, when we got the full bracket from the college football playoff, I bet Indiana early, +7.5, expecting maybe at some point to get to that flat 7, maybe under that touchdown number that is key, maybe 6.5. It really has stayed rather steady. Same with the total that stands at 51 and a hook. Here is one of the reasons that I believe the Hoosiers can keep this game within margin. Notre Dame is a prolific offense. Notre Dame against non-MAC opponents this year has been downright dominant. Notre Dame is averaging more than 43 points per game in their 10 contests against non-MAC foes. But Notre Dame starts most of their offense on the ground with Riley Leonard, with Jeremiah Love, with Jadarian Price. What is Indiana best at? More than the Maple Missile Curtis Rourke, more than a balanced rushing attack offensively, more than the prolific numbers we have seen Indiana put up offensively this year. For me, it's IU's defense, and that mainly is the physicality up front. The Hoosiers are the best rushing defense in all of FBS college football, allowing the fewest yards per game on the ground, fewer than 71 on average. I think Indiana can contain, not fully stop, but contain the Irish to keep this game within the number. If Indiana is going to pull off the upset, Bobby, that's where the offense has to be so much better than what we saw in 2 of its final 3 games throughout the regular season, right? They blast Purdue. They put up 66. Notre Dame scored 66 against the Boilers as well. But in the games against Michigan and, of course, as you guys well know, Ohio State, the offense stale and stagnant. 35 total points combined in each of those 2 games, mainly against the Buckeyes. In the only game Indiana was booked as an underdog this year, just a little bit more than 150 yards of total offense, only 68 passing yards for Curtis Rourke. If IU is going to pull off the upset, they need so much better offensive production tomorrow night in South Bend. I think the game is close. I think it's decided by a single score or fewer. I do wonder if Indiana can pull off that outright upset, learning from the experience in Columbus in their second to last regular season game.
All right, Ben. So we got the next one, Saturday at noon. SMU, the Ponies from the Big D, travel up to Not So Happy Valley in Penn State. Is this more of a, obviously their numbers on betting, but is it more of a game for, hey, Franklin, don't lose this thing? Or does SMU have actually a chance just to outright win? Because they showed some stuff being down to Clemson and battling back, and I totally get it. But now it's different. Now you're in the North. What are you thinking about the Ponies in this one?
Yeah, Schlegs, I think it's a really great question. How this game is viewed from a narrative perspective, that of course will follow every coach, every program, now in the college football playoff as well. Because is this the big one for James Franklin? Most Nittany Lions fans would say, no, this is the necessary one to get to the big ones, maybe even in the semifinal round if they were to win this and then take on Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. That's where James Franklin gets to prove what has been the only anti-part of his track record, not being able to pull off the upset, hitting up in weight class, not beating on the bad teams. And SMU was not a bad team, but just the numbers for the Nittany Lions as a favorite since the beginning of 2022, 33 games, 32-1 straight up, 23-9-1 against the spread. This is a game that Penn State needs to win, should win, and might be able to cover the number, winning by double digits. The Stangs this year as an underdog, twice against TCU and on the road against Louisville. They won outright in both of those games. In both games featured a lot of offense, at least 61 points combined between the two teams in those two games. The win against TCU, I think, was 66-42, incredibly high scoring. That has actually been what SMU has done against teams that are above 500 this year. 7 games in total, 6 of the 7 over. The only game under was the loss to BYU. A lot of people expecting points, but if Penn State is going to win this comfortably, it's because of one of the most balanced defense in all of college football, that being what Tom Allen and crew have on that side. I really don't have a great bet for this game. I've got bets in Indiana plus 7.5. Our other 2 games from a prop perspective, everything would say based on a data sample size, we should see some points in Happy Valley. Because everybody is thinking we see some points, I get a little bit more skeptical. I think Penn State wins. Can they cover? If you ask me to pick a side, I would lay the 8.5 with the Lions.
Also, one of the other things, like it's going to be in the 20s, steady wind, they say, of 15, gust up to maybe 25, which it'll be pretty chilly for the Ponies coming out of Dallas in an aerial attack that Rhett Lash likes to push the ball around. The warmest climate that we're going to see is in Austin, Texas. And Clemson slides into the college football playoff. They're able to get there with the victory in the ACC championship. Texas minus 12. And this is a Texas team that, when they played good competition, Ben, like Georgia beat them up twice. They looked pretty good against A&M, but their schedule is relatively soft the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely so, Bobby. When you look at teams that have had their schedules and their resumes poked and prodded, Texas really hasn't for the most part. Well, Indiana and SMU have no ranked wins. Neither does the top at-large team that you could argue in its 2 biggest games of the year got dismantled by a Georgia team that had its own flaws throughout the season. You look at this game, it is the largest spread of the college football playoff. Clemson is that bid stealer, of course, as the 12 seed, pulling the upset in the ACC championship game. But nobody has more CFP pedigree and experience than Clemson, Dabo Swinney, and this Tigers program. 7th appearance in the college football playoff, 2 national championships to boot, right alongside the 2 that Georgia has as well. Again, Bobby, based on the numbers, this game should track that if Texas is going to win comfortably, as the odds expect, it is the Longhorns' elite defense that carries the burden. Quinn Ewers has been highly inconsistent, and yet Sark continues to rely on Quinn, not really allowing Arch, that being Arch Manning, to do a lot in these formats. But it's been Texas's defense that has been so good. And it's 8, now make it 9 SEC games in terms of that SEC championship. 7 of the 9 under, the only true over against the backup quarterback Aiden Warner and Florida. Texas needs to keep this game under 51.5. Clemson, outside of the SMU game, has played 4 other opponents above 500 this year, under in all 4 prior to that ACC title game against SMU. The Stangs have their own issues containing teams offensively when they have above a 500 record. So again, everything in me says Clemson team total under 19.5, but everybody is saying Clemson team total under, game under in Austin. So here's the bet. Quintravion Wisner, lead running back for Texas. Prior to the Georgia game in the SEC championship, he had been that bell cow for this Texas team in Clemson's rushing defense that allows nearly $150 on the ground. The worst we have seen in Clemson, South Carolina since 2016 will allow those lead backs to prosper. I mentioned the 5 games Clemson has played against teams above 500. 4 of those 5 lead backs, at least 83 yards. Wisner's number, 82.5. I'll go with the Texas running back over 82.5 on Saturday afternoon.
That's a great bet. I like that.
Thank you, Schlegs.
You're a
Tell your son, Schlegs.
I am. I'm gonna tell him. That's the bet. Hey, all right. So now we're gonna go. I get the pleasure of going to Ohio State, Tennessee, and you look at this Tennessee team. Their 2 losses on the road. Both those losses, the quarterback Nico didn't throw a touchdown.
Yeah.
Right. But again, the theme that you've been talking about here is defenses.
Yeah.
Who you putting your money on this one?
Schlegs, again, it's the same kind of theme, right? It's so fascinating once you reach this stage from a betting perspective. You have the stats, you have the odds, you have the trends, you have everything. 12, 13 games of data, 12, 13 games of sample sizes against like competition. And here we see a total plummeting down to 45.5, opened around 48 in a hook, because people are looking at 2 elite defenses in both Ohio State and Tennessee, 2 of the 5 best scoring defenses in the country, 2 of the 5 teams that allow fewer than 2 touchdowns per game on average. And they're saying to themselves, where do we find 50 points, 48 points, now even 46 points? And I would agree, but I'm not just going to blindly bet the under because of that notion. Here's where I would look in this game. 2 spots, both on Tennessee's running back, Dylan Sampson, top 10 in the country in terms of his rushing yardage this year. You guys know it well. Ohio State elite defensively, but at times has allowed some yardage on the ground. I think the Vols are going to focus on Dylan Sampson and allow him to kind of carry the burden for Nico Iamaleava, where he has struggled in those bigger spots this year. 92.5 is the rushing yards prop for Sampson. If it feels a little steep against still a really solid Buckeyes front, I understand. Minus 145 for Sampson to score a touchdown, which might seem heavily juiced, but his numbers throughout the regular season, minus 900, minus 1,400. For a guy that has 22 rushing touchdowns this year, which is top 5 in the country, has scored in every game except the regular season finale against Vandy. Basically, the minus 145 price on Dylan Sampson is, do you think the Volunteers score in this game? If so, it is more than likely Dylan Sampson. I think Ohio State wins. In fact, from a side perspective, I back the Buckeyes here, but I think the better bet is looking at Dylan Sampson to carry that offensive production for the Vols against a really stout Ohio State defense.
You like any of the first half, like over-unders, individual over-unders or anything in this, Ben?
Yeah, so Bobby, a lot of people have talked about not only the game total under for Ohio State and Tennessee, but expecting a slower start offensively for both. First half under 23 and a hook, 22.5 where that number is right now. Gives you 3 touchdowns to work in. I think it is very smart. I think it is very sound. But if everybody's talking about it, it spooks me out just a little bit because college football is a wonky game. You can feel as though your numbers are absolutely correct based on sample size, based on everything that you have seen throughout a season. And then it's still 19, 20, and 21-year-old guys going out there to perform in the biggest spots of their career where things could get a little helter-skelter. We might see the best rushing attack we have seen out of Ohio State all year, but Tennessee's defense should be able to contain it. All to say, because everybody is expecting minimal scoring, and they are right to have that as the expectation, I think you can look to some softer betting edges, if you will, for the college football playoff.
Love it. You're the best, Ben. Sports Grid Radio. Check him out. Ben Scott Stevens on X. Appreciate it, sir. And look forward to catching up again next week.
I appreciate you guys, as I will not see you until Christmas. Have a very Merry Christmas to you and yours.
Absolutely.
You,
you as well, Ben. Enjoy it. All right. Have a great one. And coming up, we'll wrap up the show with Schleg's parting thoughts. We're up next.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
All right, Schlegs. Big show, buddy the Elf. Let's hear your
man.
parting thoughts moving
I
forward.
know. Hey, parting thoughts, man. We got a big time game Friday, Notre Dame, Indiana. But you know who else is a big game? Ohio playing Jacksonville State in like the, I don't know, Staff DNA Cure Bowl. I don't know what that is, but good for them, man. And hey, parting thoughts are this. It's going to be Friday tomorrow. Keep throwing all those darts, all your thoughts, fans, right at beat Tennessee's ass. That's what it's all about. Be a good fan. Be a Buckeye fan. Let's go out there. Let's go get this dub.
Excited, man. One more night, and then we'll get Notre Dame, Indiana tomorrow night, and Buckeyes coming up after it. The cold is rolling in, and we'll be here locked in at 12:30 for you on the Bobby Carpenter Show.